Welcome. Here we are at my first ever webinar. I have no viewers yet, so I'll wait for a few minutes here, 30 seconds to a minute before we get going. But I'll pull up the PowerPoint. Right. Okay. Waiting for some viewers to tune in. All right, we got one viewer. Our first viewer's on. Good stuff. All right. Giving you guys, yeah, 4 viewers. Good stuff, guys. All right, cool. I'm getting the webinar up and queued here. All right, more viewers. Excellent stuff. All right. So let's get this thing going, guys. So I hope you guys are all doing well. Welcome to my presentation, Breaking Bad Habits. This presentation has the potential to change your life. If you're ready to make a change in your life, it all starts with you, and you have to be confident that you can make that change. The whole slogan, Breaking Bad Habits, that's exactly what it is. It's a sales slogan. One of the things I want you guys to realize is that nothing is either good or bad, but only thinking makes it so. So think about that when it comes to making changes in your life, because it's not that things are necessarily bad or good. It's about your perception of them. So, oh, there we go. That's what I was trying to get to. So let's start over one more time. So breaking bad habits. What it really comes down to is nothing is either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. So a lot of people, they're not actually making change because they're thinking too much about making that change. And a lot of times, because you're spending so much time just thinking about making that change and not actually getting involved in creating that change for yourself, you find yourself chained to your past or bonded to old ways of thinking that aren't helping you to step into a newer and better version of yourself. So essentially what this presentation is going to come down to is, I want you guys to think about the stuff that I talk about, but think about how you can unchain yourself from your past and start work on developing a new and better way for yourself and the people around you. So what can you expect from this webinar? I'm going to hopefully give you guys the tools that you can create an entirely new you. The way we're going to do this is through self-development. I'm going to give you the tools to help you to create a new version of yourself. Now, the word self, I'm going to go more in depth into words, but the word self, it's kind of like the word cell, because some people are living in a prison of an old version of themselves. And so essentially, we want to help you get the tools that you need to help you create this new and better version of yourself through self-development. Then it's all about healing and growing. The root of the word healthy is to heal. When I see the word healthy, I see the word heal thy, as in heal thyself. A lot of people, our healthcare systems change a lot. And the real key to healing is taking your own health and you doing the work to learn how your own body works. Next month, I'm going to do a presentation on diets. And I have 4 different diets that I teach people. And you need to figure out what diet works for your specific body. And your diet is how you heal and grow from the inside out. Learn to communicate better. This is possibly one of the most important things in this presentation. By learning how to communicate better, first with yourself, then with other people, your whole life becomes much easier, because old ways of thinking are holding you back, and old ways of communicating are holding you back. And you may not be conscious of them at this point, but at the end of this presentation, you'll see how they're holding you back. People ready for change. If you're not ready for change, you should just hang up and go do something else with your day, because this webinar is going to give you the tools to change. So whether it's you or somebody you know, maybe you have a friend or a family member who is struggling with an addiction or a habit or something they need to change. Maybe they're not exercising and not eating healthy, and you want to find new ways of motivating that family member or friend. I really appreciate you guys for doing that too, by the way. We've got to help out our friends. I always tell people that you want to be the ripple effect in other people's lives rather than people being the ripple effect in your life. And I'll touch more on that later. What else to expect from this webinar? Stronger relationships. Like I said, when you communicate better with yourself, you're going to have a better relationship with yourself. When you have a better relationship with yourself, you're going to have a better relationship with other people. You're going to notice a higher level of productivity because things are going to be easier. Can you imagine how much easier your life will be as you start to identify the barriers that are holding you back and the triggers that are causing you to relapse in the old versions of yourself? And that's exactly what the next slide or next point is. Stop relapsing. A lot of us, including myself, I've had moments where I relapsed into old versions of myself because I wasn't paying attention. A lot of people are actually actually asleep, and it's because they're not paying attention to those things. And this is where you want to release attachments. Some people, I've had this myself, you're attached to old versions of yourself. You're not, like, I think the Buddha once said that attachment is the root of all suffering. So if you can release some of your attachments in life, then you're going to be a lot more successful, and you won't be relapsing into those old versions of yourself. Last but not least, the goal is to give you the tools to self-mastery. If you look at a boat, the center of the ship is the mast, and your body is kind of like a boat. So you want to learn how to control the ship or guide the boat that is your life towards success. And I'm going to give you the strategy or the tools for sustained success in your day-to-day life. Essentially, what I want to do is, your life is like a picture, and I want to give you the tools to paint a better picture for your life. I believe that everybody has the power to do this, but we often forget because we get so busy in our day-to-day lives that we forget our own power to change our own lives. And that's essentially what I want you to do. Learn to focus on the things that you have control over. Sometimes people paint a picture in your life, but you can just paint right over that and create a whole better world for yourself. So before I get really deep into this, who am I? Some of you guys tuning in today have no idea who I am or have never met me. My name is ANDRIANOS, and I knew when I was young that I wanted to be a coach. I actually remember the first person I coached, or the first one that I can remember, is when I was in the 4th grade. I had a friend who we were on a football team together, and my friend could not catch a football for the life of him. And I was actually really good at catching footballs. And I didn't really know what I was doing, but I started teaching him how to catch a football. And after like a few weeks of teaching him, he actually caught the game-winning touchdown in the championship game. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. I kind of like coaching. And so that was kind of like the epitome for me for like realization of, wow, this is what I'm meant to do with my life. So that's how I realized who I was. I started to realize, wow, I got a gift for teaching people how to change their lives. But with that said, I have to have some qualifications. So I went to San Diego State, where I got my degree in kinesiology, emphasizing fitness and nutrition. I've done 12,000 hours of coaching at 19 different gyms. I really wanted to learn from a lot of different coaches when I was young. I've run my own private gym for 9 years. And in the last year, I opened a second facility working over at WBE Electric. But even 10 years ago, I was working with corporate facilities. I was hired by the W Hotel when I was about 23 years old to do speeches for the executives about nutrition and health. And I was hired to put all the maids through a stretching routine, because part of the reason why I'm doing this presentation is I'm realizing that, you know, mental health is a huge aspect towards being more healthy and successful. And so I've kind of changed into not just being a personal trainer, but also I do public speaking, because I realize if I can get your mind right, you can get faster results with less effort. And so that's kind of what I want to do in doing these regular webinars, is to give you guys more tools. You can come back and watch this video later if maybe you missed something, and pick up on some of the stuff that may help you to be more successful. So I hope you enjoy what I go over today, but let's go into what the actual agenda is. First and foremost, as I talked about, we're going to give you the tools for self-observation and self-reflection. It's like looking into a mirror, like really looking into a mirror, but looking into yourself. And I often tell people that I don't like to judge people, and you shouldn't judge yourself either. And that's the difference between observing and judging. When you judge, you look down upon yourself. When you observe, you're just observing yourself, and you don't have to judge, look down upon yourself in that way. So it's better to just observe and reflect, and it's easier to make change. Next, we're going to go over where you're asleep. A lot of people may not be actually consciously aware of where they are asleep in their lives. I mean, one of the things that I've noticed is that when people come off of like one of my diet challenges that I do, and they go back to eating some of the old stuff, they're like, why was I eating this stuff? They're like, I was so asleep before. So that's an example of where you could be asleep in your diet or in other aspects of your life, and we'll go deeper into that. Environment. Environment's extremely important. It can affect where you're asleep. Your environment could be putting you to sleep. So think about that in terms of how you can make subtle changes. Communication tools. How are you communicating with yourself, and how can you make those changes? We'll go over that today. The law of octaves. This is possibly one of the most important things that I'm going to teach you today, because it's going to show you how to identify when you are falling back into your old habits. When you learn to identify how you're falling back into your old habits, you can recognize when a trigger pops up, and then you can change that trigger, and in changing the trigger, you can change your behavior or action that comes after the trigger. We'll get into that a little bit later. Strategy for sustained results. I'm going to give you some awesome tools that I've been sharing with people for years. Like I said in the past slide, I've been 12,000 hours of coaching. I've learned a lot of really cool stuff. And as I mentioned, I realized you can get better results when you get your mind right. With that said, let's talk about words here for a second. And words are extremely powerful, because some people are actually stabbing themselves subconsciously with their words. And sometimes it's because of a word that's in your head from the past, or it's stuff you've seen on TV that's affecting your subconscious mind. But if you learn to use words well, When people come at you with their words, or what we'll call their BS, then you can better express yourself and not let other people hurt you with their words. And we'll explain more how communication works later. But what is a habit? Let's get down to what the root of that word is. The word habit comes from the word habitus, meaning condition or appearance. So the way that you continuously think, the way that you continuously exercise and move your body, the way that your emotions are continuously affecting you, that's going to affect your condition or your appearance. Okay, so think about that when you think about the words that you're using. And that word habitus goes right into the second word. I've explained this to many doctors and other coaches and whatnot. They didn't even realize that the word diet comes from the Latin word dieta, meaning way of life. So oftentimes people will say, oh, I've had clients come to me, literally the first time coming to see me. And part of what I have to do is kind of eliminate some of your ego when you say, oh, I hate diets, or I don't like diets. You're saying, I don't like my way of life. And so part of my job as a coach is to help you to identify aspects of yourself you want to change. Like I said, it's not neither bad or good. If you want to make these changes, you have to recognize them. It's not a bad or a good thing. Your way of life is very important. And your way of life, you can be bound to your way of life. Sometimes you grow up eating a certain way, and the word legal comes from the Latin word legare, meaning to bind. And you grow up eating a certain way. And like even my own parents, they taught me how to eat very healthy growing up. But I went to school and got my degree in nutrition. And I came home and I was teaching my mother stuff about food, So you have to figure out what aspects of your life that are conditioning your appearance, how your diet or your way of life is affecting you, and what things you're bound to from your past. That's where some of the attachments can occur. And I can't make you change your life, right? But you can be the surgeon in your own mind and cut out some of that stuff that's affecting you. And that's why words, I think this is one of the most powerful points in this presentation. If you notice that I added the letter S to words, and what does it spell? Swords. Because as I mentioned at the beginning of the slide, some people are stabbing themselves subconsciously. They're cutting their own wrist because of the way that they're thinking and the words they're using to create their reality. I once read in a book that said the word paragraph is a parallel reality that you're graphing from your mind to your external world. So when you create your paragraphs and you have subconscious limiting thoughts, you're going to hold yourself back. And you can literally be cutting yourself. Look at this lovely looking sword here, right? You can be cutting yourself with your own words. This is one of the most powerful points in this presentation, because once you recognize that, you can get out of your old habits. Once you recognize that, you can get out of this old version of yourself. I've told many of my clients that I'm developing this whole new coaching program. That's not just fitness. It's not just physical. It's mental, physical, and emotional. And part of it is recognizing, are you communicating from the old you? Or are you communicating from the new you? And I've told many people this. I tell myself this. If you cling to the old version of yourself, you are going to suffer. If you cling to the old aspects of yourself, you're going to face a lot more challenges. I often equate it to, there's like a little boy or a little girl inside all of us. And that little kid wants to hold you back into your old ways, eating whatever you want, drinking whatever you want, smoking whatever you want, whatever it is that is the old version of yourself. And you have to recognize when a thought pops up in your mind, wherever it comes from. We're going to talk about the subconscious mind later. But when it pops up, is that going to help you create the new you, or is it going to be you falling back into the old you? And I'm going to help you get the tools to identify that later. But the first step is recognizing it. Habit or addiction examples. So we're going to go through a few of these habits or addictions that you could be suffering, maybe somebody you know. Food is a huge one. Many people are suffering from food addiction, right? And I consider food to be a drug. Like I consider caffeine to be a drug. I'm drinking a little coffee right now to help me get pumped up. But you need to make sure you're in control, not over-consuming these things. And a huge thing too right now during the holidays is that food, you go to these parties and your friends will trigger you to eat old foods, because maybe a few years ago you always ate certain things, or maybe you have certain habits. Remember the word habitus, of you eating certain foods with certain people. One of the challenges you have to face is that some people in your life are going to hold you back, and we're going to go over that more later. But it's the foods that you have with those people. Alcohol can be great if it's used in moderation, but you really want to make sure you're in control of it. Another example of an addiction is smoking. Smoking is to me, it's kind of like biting your fingernails. It's the actual action of doing it that you're addicted to, and a lot of it is there's a trigger that triggers you to go to smoking, that triggers you to go to drinking. Like maybe you had a really bad day and you go and smoke. Maybe you had a really good day and you go drink. It just depends. The key is recognizing where you have the habit or addiction. That's why we're going over this. Sex. I read a wonderful book called Think and Grow Rich. And in the book Think and Grow Rich, it talks about how sexual energy is the most powerful energy in the universe. If you use it appropriately, you will become invincible. If you use it poorly, it will destroy you. So you have to be careful with that as well. Money. Money's a very powerful thing as well. I mean, it clearly runs our lives, but I read this book recently called Outwitting the Devil. It was an awesome book. And one of the things it talked about is that money is good, but it can also destroy you as well, because some people, if you don't change certain habits about yourself, you can get all the money in the world, and all that's going to do is fuel your bad habits or fuel your habits that you need to change, and it could end up causing a lot of health problems for you. Like somebody, they get all the money in the world and now they can buy all the expensive liquor that they want, and it's caused a lot of health problems for them. So it could be a double-edged sword. And your ego, or what I call the tell lie vision. I put these two together because people can get a falsely inflated ego, and your ego is a good thing, but it also is a bad thing. Like many of these things on here, like food's a good thing, but it can also be a bad thing, right? Too much of it. So, and I also mentioned money because tell lie vision. When I was a little kid, my father actually works in Hollywood in the film industry. He's actually finishing up a TV show right now. Is that the tell lie vision? I always found it funny when I was a little kid. I would watch TV and then I would go to school and I would notice people acting like the people on TV, and I was like, man, I don't want to act like these people. So what I want you to do is think about what you're using, what's creating your ego. If you sit there watching TV all day, it's going to affect how your brain works. So for me, I always like to watch TV shows that affect me in a positive fashion, but I don't want to go too deep into that. Just keep that in mind. Habits or addiction examples. Now, what fuels those addictions, right? What fuels your ego? I want to watch my favorite TV show. What fuels that? Improper diagnosis. This is a huge point in this presentation. Many people go and they get a diagnosis, and they may they have addiction or a habit that's caused by an improper diagnosis. Now, that word gnosis, the root of the word diagnosis, comes from Greek. It means to know. So how can you change a habit or addiction if you don't know what the problem is, right? This is part of, like I said, the section on reflection. How are you going to know what you need to change if you don't really know? So you could have like ADD and not be aware of it. You could have an eating disorder and not be aware of it. You could have leaky gut or something, or maybe like some other condition. So I highly recommend, if you're struggling with your addiction or your change, go get more professional help, whether you're hiring a doctor to help you with that diagnosis, or if you're hiring a coach to help you overcome what that diagnosis is once you figure out what it is. At the end of this presentation, I'll be making an offer if you guys are interested in my coaching. But the goal of this presentation is to show you that you have all the tools for yourself, but if you're improperly diagnosed, you're not going to be able to make those changes. Sabotaging relationships. Some of these sabotaging relationships can be with ourselves. You have a sabotaging relationship where, remember I talked about words? People can be stabbing themselves because they're not paying attention to the thoughts that they're thinking. They're not paying attention to the people they're hanging out with. Sometimes your friends can sabotage you. I once had a client who would go to work, and her friends at work were planting chocolates in all around work because she had made a decision, I'm going to get in shape, and her friend wasn't ready to make that change at work, and so she started sabotaging her. So even sometimes it can be our friend or a family member, even our spouse isn't ready to make a change. We start making dietary changes and we start exercising, and maybe our spouse isn't ready. You know, it's one of those things, being conscious of that and making sure respecting people wherever they're at. That's something I have to do as a coach. Not everybody's ready to change. I totally respect that. But if you're ready to make a change, you have to dive in with it fully yourself. But pay attention to where you're sabotaging yourself or other people are. Poor planning. This is a simple one, and I'm going to talk about this more next month when we talk about diet. But I always say, proper preparation prevents poor performance. Part of this presentation is preparing you so that you can plan ahead for when you have instances come up, when you're like at a party and your aunt offers you a piece of pie. Well, that's going to be an opportunity to trigger you to fall back into the old you. If you've planned ahead of time, you won't fall back into that old version of yourself. Lack of awareness. So this is part of the stuff where you're asleep. If you're not aware of the mistakes that you're making, you can't make change. If you're not aware of the diagnosis, how can you make change? If you're going to make change, you have to be aware before you're going to make it happen. Last but not least, it's all about self-limiting thoughts. Now, everybody has a moment where you have a self-limiting thought. I've stubbed my toe and thought I was a complete idiot. Trust me, I have. But self-limiting thoughts of the past, that's depression, right? You're thinking, oh my God, all these things happen. I'm so depressed. Like, oh my God, the future could happen. I have so much anxiety. It could happen that way. Like, an example, like, this is my first ever webinar. I definitely felt some anxiety before this presentation, but I don't let it ruin my life. You know what I'm saying? I do my best to make everything fun, and that's what you have to do. Stop the self-limiting thoughts and turn it into a game. Just because I feel a little anxiety before I give a webinar, that's a good thing. It means I'm excited, right? You can either let it bring you down or you can let it bring you up. It's all about your perception. This is important because these words are important. I often tell people that if you simply change, like people come into my gym and they say, I'm going to try. And I say, don't use the word try. Just eliminate the word try from your life. And this is an example here where your attitude affects your altitude. If you think something's impossible, all you can do is just simplify that and eliminate the I am, and then it's possible. And when you realize the possibilities you have in your day-to-day life, you literally can make anything happen. Remember this point for this slide. Attitude affects your altitude. Get your ego out of the way. Stop thinking about what you want to change and think about it. I'm possible. I'm possible. Anything that I create with my own mind is possible. Imagine all the people facing far greater challenges in this world who are making things happen, right? So get out of your own ego. Get out of the old you and look at yourself in a different way and realize that your past is just like the wake of this ship. Now, this is an example right here where I'm starting to tap into your subconscious mind. When you see this picture, and I've used this picture many times in past presentations, or a similar picture of a boat, and I tell people, remember what I talked about at the beginning, where it's all about self-mastery. And the mast of the boat, the center of the boat, that's what's guiding the direction of the boat. But what happens is many people, they're sitting on the back of the boat. And if you look at the back of the boat, people, they're sitting there looking at the wake. And if you look at the wake is just disappearing. So the challenge is that people are sitting on the back of the boat, looking at the wake of the ship disappearing. They're trying, and I don't like that word trying, they're trying to say, look at all those things that happened in my past, they've led to now. But in reality, the boat creates the wake. So what's happening now creates the past. Do you get what I'm saying? I've had to use this with many people because even myself, there's moments where, oh my God, this person treated me badly. Oh my God, this circumstance happened. That's me just being depressed. What I have to do is say, why am I sitting on the back of this boat just looking at the wake of the ship disappearing? And that's a tool that you can use. Get into self-mastery, master the ship. Where is the ship going? I'm gonna have another picture of a ship later. And if you're just sitting there in the back of the boat looking at the past, you're never gonna get where you wanna go in life. And you have nobody to blame but yourself. I'm not judging you when I say that. It's an observation. You have to observe yourself so that you can get off the back of that boat and start guiding it to where you want to be in life. So steps for success. We're going to finish up here with self-reflection. And like I looked up self-reflection in the dictionary. It said you have to take serious thought. A lot of people are playing around. I often talk about in the gym, foo-foo reps. No foo-foo reps allowed, right? And if you're just kind of playing on the surface in life, you're never going to see your dreams come true. You got to dive into the abyss of who you are and really challenge yourself and ask yourself those questions about where you need to change. Meditate. Now, I actually want to do a webinar someday just strictly on meditation, but the key point with meditation is it's better than medication, but meditation is the goal is to focus on nothing. I coach a lot of really wealthy and successful people, and I'm really happy for them. But the fact is, your wealth and success can be a double-edged sword. You need to take time to do nothing. And the value of this psychologically is that you're constantly, let's say you're working like 10, 15-hour days. You're not working. You're always, we'll say, in the shit. You're just doing it, working. If you don't get yourself out of it, you're not going to see it in the same way. So when you focus on doing nothing, that's exactly the point. When you separate yourself from all the stuff that you're doing, and allow your mind to relax, it gives you a different perspective. And that allows you to reflect, right, on what's going wrong or what's going right in your life so you can make changes. You got to develop self-awareness. Remember we talked about lack of awareness? By developing self-awareness, by meditating, by taking serious thought, you're going to be more aware of how your thoughts are affecting you and where your thoughts are coming from, your mind, your body, or your emotions. Setting SMART goals. I'm not going too deep into goal setting today. We'll talk more about that next month when we go over diet. But specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-based goals. Make sure that you have those 5 things: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-based if you want to be successful. And last but not least, very important thing, track your progress, especially if you're starting out making change. You need to make note. I often tell people when we do a strict diet, write down how foods make you feel. Well, when you're making changes in your life, write down how the different decisions you make are making you feel, because that's going to be kind of your roadmap for helping you to make change. Excuse me. All right, so see this picture here? That's actually my dad. He loves to eat Frito-Lays. He absolutely loves chips and potatoes, and he loves eating them in bed. But that's actually not my dad, I'm just kidding. But where are you asleep? We've all had moments in our life where we're asleep, including me, where you're sitting there watching TV. I remember years ago, I used to watch football every Sunday, all day long. I watch football, just eat and eat and eat and eat. And I started to hit my late 20s, like, oh my God, I can't eat like this anymore. But the fact is, you need to recognize where you are asleep in life. And whether it's in your relationships, whether it's your family, your friends, or at work. An example is I actually went to a business coaching seminar a couple years ago. And in that business coaching seminar, they asked, where are you asleep in your business life? I often tell people that your health is like a body bank account. You want to make sure you're putting more in than you're pulling out. And if you're asleep, your body bank account's going to suffer. And the same thing with your business. If you're asleep in certain aspects of your business. So look at it like that. If you're asleep in certain aspects of your life, your bank account's going to suffer. Your health bank account's going to suffer. If you're not paying attention to how your relationships with your friends are affecting you, if you have a certain friend who all you do is go out and get drunk with each other every time you hang out, maybe you should hang out with that person less. If all you do is go out and you make poor decisions with somebody, maybe you should hang out with that person less. Or maybe certain things at work are affecting you as well. Your personal life, when it comes to your diet, your fitness, or your sleep. I often say you could be asleep when it comes to sleep. Maybe you're not sleeping at night because you're so stressed out mentally at work that it's not allowing you to sleep. So think about that aspect. Or when it comes to your diet, a lot of people are asleep with their diet because they're not paying attention to the food that they're eating. As a fitness coach, I ask people constantly whenever I coach them, what have you been eating? Have you drinking enough water? Have you been stretching? And oftentimes people will be like, I haven't drank any water. Oh yeah, water. Dude, that's good for you, man. I heard it's good for you. And I'm like, yeah, that's why I asked, because like even I forget sometimes to drink water. So we all have moments where we go asleep. That's part of putting your ego in check and say, oh yeah, I do have parts of my life where I'm asleep. And that's your opportunity to wake up. You got to be honest with yourself of where you're asleep. And then getting into your environment. That's the next step, because your environment can really affect you. If you live with certain people, if you go to work with people and their lives, they're acting or living their lives a certain way, it's going to affect you. Excuse me. So our environment is our life. I chose this picture because personally, one of my meditation places is getting out into nature. I love going camping. I love being outdoors. And my question to you is, what's your meditation place? When you're stressed out, when things are rough, you need to have a place that you can go. I actually have a meditation pillow. I go in my room, and then I also have a place that I go outdoors as well. So I have a couple different places that are kind of my grounding space. And so that's a tool that you can use right there, is like find a spot that's your meditation place. Some people, I do coloring in a coloring book sometimes, and that's my meditation. But your environment can greatly affect you, right? The word environment, the beginning is in, as in within. Your environment within and your environment without. As above, so below, within and without. So think about first how you can assess your situation, right? How is your situation affecting you? How can you change it is really important, because there's certain things that you can change. And I mentioned earlier, you want to focus on where you can make changes. Now at work, like my father, he works in the film industry, and they always have really good catering services. But I remember years ago, he struggled because he'd be really stressed out at work, working really long hours, and they'd have all this not so healthy food. And when your blood sugar levels are low, you go for that stuff that's not as healthy for you. And that's kind of an aspect where you could be falling asleep and your environment is affecting you, right? So what my dad did was he started bringing snacks to work and not going over to where all the unhealthy food was, right? So you have to find ways to cheat. I'm actually telling you to cheat. Find ways to cheat yourself, or cheat yourself into being more successful, and ask yourself, what can you let go of, right? Just because you have a job that affords you free lunches or something, maybe all those lunches are crap. You know what I mean? You have to be the one to make that decision. Right? What things are you attached to? Remember we talked about attachments? The Buddha said attachment is the root of all suffering. What can you let go of to help you be more successful? And also, very important here, if you want to be successful in your environment, focus on your strengths. I put a picture here of a refrigerator because a lot of my clients, a lot of my mommies that I coach, they live with family members who aren't going on a strict diet like them. And they get to the fridge, and the fridge is a difficult place. And so what I recommend is, like when I first did my first ever strict diet, I was living with my mom at the time. It was many years ago. And I had to hide the bread in the house because I just couldn't handle having the bread out. So you could hide things in the fridge so you don't see them. Or another thing you can do is, if you do live on your own, is just don't buy food and bring it home, right? So pay attention to how your environment is affecting you. Because if you get your environment right, it's going to be much more conducive towards your success in your diet, in your work life, in your personal life, in every aspect of your life. Now let's get into communication. Why is communication so important? Because effective communication is the difference between you being in alignment and you being out of alignment with what you were truly meant to do in life. If you want to be successful, You have to recognize where you are failing. And when I say alignment, I often tell people that it's like if your life's out of alignment, you don't really know where you're going. And you have to ask yourself where you are communicating from. And this is what I call the 3 horses. And this is a big kind of the bigger aspect of my coaching program. Because I realized years ago, I was training people's bodies, but I realized it's really about training the mind, the body, and the emotions. And when you get your mind, your body, and your emotions in alignment, that's why I call it the 3 horses. You literally become unstoppable. That's how my coaching program has changed. I'm no longer just training people's bodies, I'm training people's minds and their emotions. Now, who am I to say that? Well, a lot of people, they're struggling with their diet emotionally, and it has to do with mentally not knowing what's going on or how to make changes in their life or attachments to their past that's affecting them emotionally. So these are the tools that I'm giving you to ask yourself, where are you communicating from? Are you communicating from your mind? Are you being very analytical that day? Are you in your head a lot that day? Then you're communicating from your mind. Physically, maybe you didn't sleep very good and your body's not feeling so good. Maybe you stubbed your toe, right? And you're communicating from your body that day. Or let's say like your dog died, or like a family member was sick, or something happened, and you're communicating emotionally. This is huge. If you're able to recognize whether you're communicating from your mind, your body, or you're communicating emotionally, then you're going to be more successful, because you get off work, you had a rough day, and you want to go eat a cheeseburger. You're like, oh, I'm being emotional. I'm just had a rough day. And you recognize that trigger, right? And then you don't make that decision, right? Because as you learn to listen to yourself, right? This is all about developing your 5 senses. And this is about awareness too. Remember I talked about self-reflection? I mentioned awareness twice. Is that as you learn to listen to yourself, right? Then, like the word listen is to list, and N is within. List within yourself. You start learning how you're communicating from your mind, your body, and your emotions. And then after you do this for a while, this is going to take time, you will learn to have better empathy for others. This is what's helped me as a coach, because I'm still working on this myself. I'm not saying I'm a master in any way. I'm still learning. But as I've learned to communicate better, understand where I'm communicating from my mind, my body, and my emotions, I'm better able to recognize where other people are communicating from, and that's made me a better coach. It's a very powerful word, empathy, that a lot of people forget about today, is to be empathetic towards other people. So think about that. Learn how to get those horses in alignment: mind, body, and emotions. How to recognize triggers. Another point to this presentation, it's extremely important to recognize when those triggers pop up. They precede the action or behavior. You have to think about triggers are like a gun. The gun doesn't fire unless you pull the trigger, right? So it is the thought or action, or excuse me, the thought or occurrence that precedes the action or behavior that's holding you back, okay? It is the thought it is the thought that is preceding the action or behavior that is holding you back. Make sure you guys understand that. So when you have something happen, it stimulates a negative thought, okay? And the thing is, it's not really, remember I talked about before, it's neither bad or good. It stimulates a thought in your mind. We'll call it negative here because it could be causing a negative action, like you're going and drinking or something, right? But when you recognize when that trigger occurs, that's when you can create a change, right? You have sometimes that negative thought can cause instant anxiety or depression. Like you have a rough day at work, and you're instantly like, oh, I want to go have some sugar. Oh my God, like it's kind of your way of coping. It's a coping mechanism. You know, whether you're drinking a Diet Coke, or whether you're going and eating dark chocolate, or whether you're going and smoking cigarettes, or you're drinking alcohol. You instantly go, how do I remedy this? And sometimes it's popping up from your subconscious mind. You don't know how to cope with it, so you go back to those old habits. But the first step to understanding this is you have to recognize when the trigger occurs, right? That trigger occurs, boom, the trigger's been hit, that bullet's coming out. So when you can recognize when the trigger's occurring, then you're going to be able to prevent relapses, okay? You're going to be able to prevent relapses into those old habits. Remember those 2 signs at the beginning, the old you and the new you? You're going to be able to prevent relapses into the old you because you're going to be able to recognize when those triggers are occurring. So the law of octaves, all right? This is possibly the most powerful point in this presentation because I've started using this for myself, and I recognize, I'm like, oh, that's the law of octaves. I'm starting to fall back into the old me. But you have to recognize that your body, who you are, your ego, who you are, it is a vibration and it is a rhythm. Every thought that you have is a vibration and it has a rhythm. It has a rhythm, right? Just like your heartbeat has a rhythm. Every thought you think has a rhythm. It has a vibration. Remember I talked about your body creates a ripple effect in the world around you, and I'm hoping that as you guys, I hope you'll come back and watch this presentation again to make sure you get every point in here, is that do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. There's 8 different octaves. The word oct means 8, right? But what I want you to think about is that people, as they go down the path, the goal, let's say I wanted to start a fitness program, right? So I start the fitness program and I get a few steps down the path, right? And then I fall off. Let's say 3 weeks into the training program, I start thinking my old thoughts, or I start thinking, oh, I just want to go eat a cheeseburger. I don't really want to do this. The key is recognizing when that thought pops up. That's the trigger. Now, the law of octaves comes from one of my favorite gurus, G.I. Gurdjieff, who was around in the early 1900s. And one of the things he talked about is that a lot of people are struggling because they're in a wakeful state of sleep and they're not recognizing when these triggers occur. So that's why I'm teaching this to you guys. It's a little bit advanced. This is a little bit advanced, guys. But if you can recognize this, oh my God, it's going to be so much easier to stop falling back into the old you. You have to recognize the patterns first. Okay, remember that vibration, that rhythm that we have? As you recognize your rhythm, and you can change the rhythm, right? You have to reflect, as we talked about, and then make an assessment. And as you make that thought reflection assessment, you can implant and replace old triggers. So this is, remember at the beginning of the presentation, I talked about how nothing is either good or bad. So what you thought was bad could actually be a trigger that triggers a new action, but you have to be conscious of it and catch it when it pops up in your mind. So some people have struggled with this graphic. My dad actually didn't like it very much. But so you see how this line, the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do, re, mi, fa, sol, it starts going downwards and back into a circle. So the way that this works, this is the way I want you to remember it, is that, remember I mentioned before, it's like you start a fitness program and you're like, man, I'm gonna get in shape. I'm so excited. I'm gonna lose 10 pounds. I'm gonna work out really hard and all this stuff. And then you get 3 weeks into it, and then you have these thoughts like, why am I doing this? Like, I really just want to go eat whatever I want. There's some really cool TV shows on. I could go watch that instead of exercising at the same time. And so that's the law of octaves right there when those thoughts start popping up. The key to me teaching you this is now you have something to label it with. That's what the power of words is. I'm giving you tools to label what's happening in your own mind. So when you see that happen, you get 3 steps, and I didn't make this up. This is a thing created by a guru long ago, is you get 3 steps down the path, and it may not be 3, maybe 4, whatever, but you go do, re, mi, fa, right? Think about it like this. I like the mi, fa part because it's like me falling off. I'm falling back into the old me. So another example of this is like, let's say I'm meditating. I've been doing really good with meditation lately, but no matter, whenever you meditate, there's gonna come a point where you fail. You want to prolong your success as long as possible in your meditation or your exercise program, your diet program, whatever. So what I do is like I'm meditating, all of a sudden this thought pops up. Oh my God, I got to text that person or call that person. I go, oh yeah, that's just the law of octaves. I just recenter myself, okay? And then it keeps me going on the path. Instead of at that me, fa part, I keep going in a straight line and I keep going towards creating the new version of myself. If that thought pops up while I'm meditating, oh my God, I got to text that person, and I stop meditating, that's me not using the law of octaves. I've fallen back, mi, fa, falling back. My soul has fallen back into the old version of myself. Mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, right? So think about that. When the trigger pops up, go, oh my God, that's the law of octaves. I'm falling back into my old habits. And use that. This is where hiring a coach is actually very valuable too, because what I do when I coach people, when that trigger pops up, I give you a trigger to replace that trigger. You can do this on your own, but if you're struggling, definitely hire a coach to help you. Let's move on. We're almost done here, guys. We have a few slides to go. Tools for success. How do you have sustained success with the things I'm teaching you today? Develop the subconscious mind. This is some of the stuff that I'm giving you for strategy for sustained success. You must develop your subconscious mind. How does the subconscious mind work? So like, what does that mean, subconscious mind? I learned about it in psychology, but they never really went into it. The subconscious mind only works on images. That's why I'm telling you, bad or good doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Your subconscious mind doesn't know what positive means. It doesn't know what negative is. It doesn't know good or bad. It doesn't know evil or good. It has no recollection of what the difference is. Your subconscious mind only works on images. But that's a very good thing, because if you learn to control it, you're not going to fully ever control it. But if you learn to have some level of control over it rather than letting it control you, you're going to be more successful. And what you're going to do is you're going to eliminate barriers faster. I'm telling you guys, I've done so much coaching. I actually can get better results with my clients with less effort when they do this mental work on their subconscious mind, because those barriers that are in your subconscious mind, you get them out of your way faster. Now, before I show you a few of these images, use a journal or a diary. A journal is a man version of a diary. And what you do is you use that to track your success, track your results. track how these images are affecting you, and use a whiteboard. That's one of my other homework pieces I've been giving a number of my clients lately. And I learned that from my dad. My dad working in Hollywood, he would face struggles each day, and he would have this whiteboard to motivate him, and he would see it each day. And if you looked in my room right now, I've got whiteboards everywhere reminding me of all the things that I have to do. It's just how my mind works. But what happens is when I'm not paying attention, that thing hits my subconscious mind and it helps plant the seed deeper in my mind. Let me show you in this next slide how that works. Oh, excuse me. One more point is this is the difference between attracting what you want and repelling what you want in life. Because a lot of people, they're actually repelling what they want because of their attitude. The way that they've been living, the way they've been thinking, the words that they're using, they're repelling what they want to have attracted into their life. Let's say you want to be a millionaire. You're repelling that by the way that you're thinking. Let's say you want to go to an island destination. And that's exactly what I'm going to show you here. Let's say you have a goal. You want to get to this beautiful island destination with palm trees. I know you guys love my artistic work here. It looks beautiful, doesn't it? Your goal is to get to this island destination. Maybe you want to be a millionaire. Maybe you want to find your dream lover or whatever it is. Whatever your goal is, you could be consciously on the path towards your goal. I've created this picture for a number of my clients. You could have the oar is perfectly, you're rowing towards your goal. You got your sail set, the propeller set. You're like, oh my God, look, there's the island. I'm on my way to the island. Here we go. And you're like so confident and you're bragging to your friends like, oh my gosh, good thing I'm rich. I have all this money. I have the best boat and the best oar and I have the sail set. Oh my God. And this thing, it doesn't matter how much money you have. If you don't have your subconscious mind right, it's not going to work. Consciously, you're going towards that goal, but here's the problem. The current beneath the boat is going against you. So that's why I asked you the question, which way is the current going? If you do this work on your subconscious mind, and this picture right here is an example. You could start using this picture today. Put this picture up in your room and remind yourself, is my subconscious mind going against me? As you make the shift and start developing your subconscious mind, you can shift the current. When you shift the current, you do not have to work as hard to make your goals and make your dreams come true. Hope that makes sense for you guys. You can put the sail down, you can put your oar away, and you can you can turn off the propeller. You don't have to use so much energy to get towards your goals. It's like people who go to the gym, and I've seen it, like I said, I've done 12,000 hours of coaching. They go to the gym and they work out really hard, and they look in the mirror and they go, I hate myself. I hate my diet. I hate the world. And that's stuff coming up from your subconscious mind rather than going, wow, I love myself. I love this world. I love my workout. It's like that negative self-talk stuff. And so each person's a little bit different with where it comes from. Even I have some negative self-talk stuff. It pops up. But the more I do this work, the less it affects me, right? So pay attention to where things are popping up in your subconscious mind. And I'm going to give you the tools to help you do that right now. Notice this picture of a hand drawing a picture. So what I want you to imagine is that you decided to go on vacation. And while you're on vacation, you say, hey, Odie, what's up, buddy boy? You want to watch my house for me while I'm on vacation? I'm like, oh, yeah, dude, no problem. I'm going to do a little artwork while you're gone. You're like, whatever, artwork, no problem. That's no big deal. So you're gone on vacation for a few weeks. I'm like, dude, I'm going to do some artwork inside your house. And so I start painting pictures of, like, people you don't like, putting pictures of things that you don't like, all inside your house, inside your living room. Ooh, right? Put all these pictures up, and I draw them all over the place, and then you come home from your vacation, you're like, oh my God, what is all this stuff? Oh my God, Odie, get out of here. And you're really angry at me, and I leave. I'm out of your life. I'm gone. I'm like, whatever, man. It's your house. Not my problem, right? And I just leave. I'm gone. And what you do, oh my God, look at all these bad pictures. Oh, I mean, you're really angry, all these emotions, right? And what you do is you just leave the pictures there in your living room. You're sitting there watching TV, and you have these pictures all around your living room, and they're hitting your subconscious mind, making you angry at people you don't like, things in your past that have happened that you don't like, things that could happen in the future that you're afraid of happening, right? And you let little Odie come into your living room and draw all that stuff up on the walls. Now, here's the thing. What I want you to do, that hand drawing the picture, I want you to imagine that in your mind, a picture pops up, and somebody's drawing that picture, just like I did in your living room. And what you're going to do with that picture, you're going to crumple it up, and you're going to throw it over your shoulder. Now, what you have to do is, I've given this tip to a number of my clients. I actually had a client who had an injury that wasn't healing. And then once they started applying this, the injury was gone within a few weeks, because sometimes your physical pain is due to emotional attachment. So that's just an example. But what I want you to do essentially is, let's say, I'll give you an example of myself. Like, I had a friend who mistreated me in the past. And sometimes I would think about that. Like, oh man, this person really treated me badly. And that image would pop up, and I go, who cares? That's not happening right now. And I just crumple the picture up, throw it over my shoulder, and I get right back to what I was doing. Because some of you are, like, this has happened even to myself. It's like being on the back of that boat, looking at the wake of the ship. You got to crumple up that picture, throw it over your shoulder, and get back to making your life happen. Let me give you another example of this. Notice all these seats, right? All these seats, all these people are watching this movie. And that's how a lot of people, your life is. I actually had a really good coach when I was younger, and he told me, if you want to be a successful coach, Odie, what you have to do is be a good listener. When you listen to people, people will tell you what their movie is. This is what I do when I coach people, or when I do video coaching or coaching in person. I listen to what your movie is. And essentially what I want to do is that you can hire me to change your life, or you can do it yourself. But the fact is, you have to get out of sitting there watching the movie that is your life, and you want to get in the driver's seat and guiding your life. And that's probably the most important, most powerful thing that I could share with you today, is you got to get out of just watching your life go by. Stop watching the movie. Stop watching the movie that is your life. Stop thinking, right? Stop thinking about what's going on in your life, and get in the driver's seat and guide yourself towards the life that you've always wanted. It's just like that boat picture, right? You want to make sure that you're guiding the mast of the ship. You want to achieve self-mastery, so you're guiding the ship rather than the current guiding you. Keep this in mind, because essentially what you want to do is you want to be the director of your own life. If I'm successful as a coach, I'm going to teach you to be your own director. In conclusion, we're going to finish up here, guys. A couple, like 2 or 3 slides left. In conclusion, learn self-reflection. Figure out where you are asleep and how you can change your environment, and focus on where you have your strengths. Focus on the things you can change. That's where your greatest power is. Assess habits. Focus on your rituals create your riches. So your rituals could be creating not riches, right? If you're not paying attention. And make sure you're tracking your habits, especially initially when you start. Like, we're going to talk next month about doing a diet journal. And make sure you're tracking those habits, because that's the only way you're going to change. Make sure you're tracking what's changing. Identify triggers. Where we talked about the law of octaves. Keep that in mind. Watch this presentation again. If it didn't make sense to you, please contact me if anything I said did not make sense to you. Some people struggle with the law of octaves. But if you're on the path towards something and those old thoughts of you come up, you're just going to start falling back into that law of octaves. Create a rhythm and keep that rhythm going. It's just the law. That's what you are. You're a rhythm. You're a vibration. Be in control of it. Develop the subconscious mind with images. Remember the images that I showed you in this presentation. And then they often talk about doing a vision board. If you want to achieve something in your life, create a little vision board and put it up in your room. Put it right next to your whiteboard with writing down what all your goals are. So then you're starting to develop your subconscious mind with those images. Last but not least, life is a movie. You want to be a director. Get out of the seat right here watching the movie. There's so many people that come to me like, Odie, help me lose 30 pounds. I'm like, all right, good. Stop watching the movie that is your life. You know what I mean? Like, that's essentially what it comes down to. You have to be the director and stop letting life direct you. My last point here, remember how I said thinking is neither good or bad? Nothing is either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. Well, what I want you guys to think about is this. Now, this is a picture of sculpture done by Auguste Rodin. I hope I said that correctly. And it's a thinker. I actually went and saw this sculpture when I was in Paris, France. And I thought it was the coolest sculpture. But the fact is, people, this kind of blew my mind. You know, those moments that are kind of an awakening for you. And the tour guide that showed us this sculpture, a few minutes later showed us another sculpture of the thinker. There's actually 2 thinker sculptures. The second one is on the gates of hell, because some people are thinking their way into hell. I'm not a religious person, but you have heaven and hell in your hands. And if you sit there thinking and thinking and thinking, you're never going to see your dreams come true. You're going to think yourself into hell. So think about that. You know, nothing is either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. So start thinking about ways that you can make change in your day-to-day life and start creating the life that you've always wanted, and change your behaviors. So that's pretty much my presentation, but I'm going to go over a couple little things here to finish up. My next webinar, OG Diet Program. I'll be going over 4 Odie's Gym diets. So the 4 diets are, we have the calorie counter diet. So you really focus on counting your calories. We have the fasting diet, which I'll be doing this next diet challenge. We have a vegetarian diet and a meat eater diet. And I'll be going over in detail those 4 diets next month. The reason why I have 4 diets is because everybody's body is different. I want to teach you and give you the tools to find the diet that works best for you. I'm not here to tell you how to eat. I'm here to give you the tools. You are your own chemistry experiment. I want you to be the chemist to create those changes. I want to share with you guys what to buy. I want to make it as easy. Once you decide you want to make the change, I want to help make it as easy as possible for you. So I'm going to show you what to buy. I'm also going to have recipes to share. This is all going to be available on my website, but I'm going to be going into some of this stuff in my presentation. And we're going to go over more in depth today. We touched on this a little bit, how to overcome emotional eating. Really important thing here, how to overcome emotional eating. And some final information for you guys is that you can go to my website, odysgym.com. I have an exercise video website. You can literally get your entire workout from my website. I have a diet section on the website too that actually goes into detail how to do my 4 different diets. You can check that out as well. And if you like a link for a discount membership to my website, please message me and I'd love to give that to you. Video coaching is available. If you like the stuff I shared today, if you'd like to work with me one-on-one, I would love to share my time with you. These webinars are free because I want to share all this cool information that I've learned. I love the information that I've learned. But if you want to go deeper with your specific issues or challenges, please don't be afraid to contact me. Okay? You can check me out, look me up on my website if you want to get a hold of me, Facebook and whatnot. My next webinar is going to be January 9th, 2018, and I hope that you all can make it. I'll be a little more prepared next month with contacting everybody. I hope to get people's emails and get you on a regular mailer so we can make this a little bit easier. I want to thank you all for tuning in. I look forward to next month doing another great presentation. Happy holidays, and thank you all for tuning in. This has been an absolute pleasure, my first ever webinar, and I'm very grateful for everybody who's tuned in today, and I look forward to doing more presentations in the future. So let me stop this. Beautiful. All right. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We've got 3 viewers left. Take care. Happy holidays, and I'll catch you next year.